Hi, Jack Canfield here, and welcome back to another segment of Talking About Success. My next guest, Nina Kelly, strongly believes in the power of healing through stories and images. She's a mythologist with emphasis in depth psychology, we're going to talk about what all that means, and an archetypal pattern analyst. She has worked in the medical arena with death and dying patients and organ donation and transportation. She also has given back to her community, serving as president of numerous nonprofits. So first of all, let's talk about what is a mythologist. Not many people grow up, I want to grow up and be a mythologist. So, and with an emphasis in depth psychology and archetypal pattern analyst. In a few words, only because we have such a brief time, but give us a background, a little bit of what that really means.
A mythologist is someone who has studied all major cultures, their religions, their philosophy, their psychology, and their rituals. Emphasis in depth psychology, that's Jungian psychology. Right? Archetypal pattern analysis, that's studying the different patterns that people have, such as the patterns that we wear, father, son, mother, daughter, doctor, lawyer, Indian chief. I mean, you know, we carry all those titles, and that's how we portray ourselves out in the world. That's kind of it in a nutshell.
So there's that.
Yeah.
And then you're in the hospitals helping people with kidney transplants and getting on airplanes and carrying organs to New York and from wherever they were, because we had a fascinating conversation before we came on air. So how do you combine those two?
Well, you know, when you're working in the world of death most of the time, you have to find the balance. So there's life and death. And the balance is, for me personally, I had to learn more about people and cultures and what they believed in. And when I understood people, you don't try to change them. And then when you're walking into different worlds, when you're bringing organs to different people, you're walking into their cultural beliefs and their philosophies. And that's kind of how that all played together.
Okay, then you created a research project where you combined these two things. Talk about that.
All right, I was interested in story and images and how they healed. And my research was on kidney transplant patients. Back in the ancient times, the Greeks and the Egyptians both believed in stories and healing. And so what I did was I took the transplant patients, or pre-transplant patients, and we talked about stories that helped them, that stories of love. We used images showing what they were going to receive. We took those images and implemented that, and with their heart and their love and their compassion of themselves. By doing that, it was measured medically, and with the chemistries, the blood chemistries, we reduced the amount of rejection episodes. We reduced the amount of immunosuppression that they took. This is the medicine that you take to keep your transplant. They were able to get out of the hospital quicker. They had a better quality of life, and the key was that they all wanted to give something back to their community. It was fascinating.
Now, we talked earlier, again, before we came on air, about when you were reading these stories, when you were helping them with little guided visualization, you talked about hearts and light. Share a little bit about that.
Okay. In my world, we're taught to give, and we haven't been really taught to receive. When someone dies and offers their organs to you, they're giving you the gift of life. So what I did with each patient was I said, think of a story when someone gave you something that you could receive unconditionally and hold it next to your heart. And what they did, I said, that's your story. That's your story when you become fearful. And then I showed them where their new kidney was going to be transplanted. I showed them that where it's connected to the heart, and that through the vessels, and that to think about love and light and healing, and think pink, and this was back in the 90s, and that think pink, think vibrance. And every time you became afraid, think about the story of love, because you're taking something unknown into your body, and that's what we did.
Now, it's interesting because my daughter-in-law has a kidney transplant. Her father gave her a kidney. She had a disease, I don't know what it is, it's very rare, but basically her kidneys failed. And so I wish I'd known about this
really?
3 years ago. So you're doing a new project now where you're working with children, I think.
Yes.
And using mythology and stories. So talk about that.
Okay. Now I'm very interested in children and healing, and going to begin stories with same thing, images, stories of healing, where you tell the stories to the children, and I'm looking at doing research with leukemic patients. But this can be implemented after with any child that's ill. And want to do the same measurement, but tell the story to the child initially, have them in a relationship with the book and the images, and have them, encourage them to take ownership of healing, because healing yourself through love, healing yourself through images, healing yourself through compassion with yourself.
I love the work you're doing. There's so much.
Thank
I
you.
just can see the joy in your face and your passion for the project.
Yeah.
And just you're so committed to the work you're doing. Now you wrote a book called Grace Has a Silent Voice. Talk about that. What's that about?
This is a book that I felt, I'm a letter writer, so, and I kept telling my friend all these stories that I had throughout about people that gave and people that were heroes. And one day she said, you should write a book. And I thought, yes, I need to honor the heroes, people that come into our lives, they touch our lives, and no one knows about it. But they really are heroes. They change your life. And this is what this book's about, honoring those silent heroes and how they make a profound difference in people's lives.
And if someone were to read your book, what would you want them to walk away with?
The belief in the resilience of the human spirit.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Now, if someone wanted to find out more about your book, your research, what you're doing, where would they go?
They would go to my website, and that's ninamkelly.com. It's www.ninamkelly.com.
Very beautiful, very beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, I really encourage you to check out her website, check out her book, and if you have children that are, any time they might get ill or have a catastrophic illness, look for her book that'll be coming out of the new research, and there'll be other things like we talked about. You're going to have CDs and downloads from iTunes, all kinds of wonderful things. So keep her on your radar. There's more to come. So, and there's more to come for this show, so stay tuned. After this message, we'll be right back.